My dear friends of the animals, last week, thanks to the Save a Cow Foundation, I paid a visit for the first time to a sanctuary for animals. Not just any sanctuary, but the largest large animal sanctuary in the world. Situated on the Sunshine Coast, 2 hours drive from Brisbane, the sanctuary provides a peaceful place for many dozens of cows to live out their natural lives with human help, but without human interference. I touched for the first time a few of these majestic and noble creatures. These cows have names, just as they have individual personalities and behaviours that make them real-life animals. They are peaceful, gentle, noble creatures who would not hurt a living soul. So why is it that right next door there are farms dotting the countryside with cows that will be sent to the slaughterhouses to make profit for their greedy farmers? Do not all these cows have names as well? Would you give your pet a name only to have it trucked off to an abattoir and murdered for its meat? Why should an animal's life be given a price tag instead of a name? How would you feel if your child or your dog or your family member was taken away from you and sent off to be processed for profit? How would you feel if your child or your dog had its back spray painted with the letters CULL at just 6 months old and trucked away on a semi-trailer to have its throat slit because someone wanted its meat for their dog and ham sandwich? How would eating that sandwich make you feel? Sick as hell, that's what. So why are people still eating that flesh and ending up in surgical wards to treat their heart disease and their cancer? And so it came to pass that I dutifully paid a visit to my local heart surgeon, who tested the vulnerabilities of my heart. I told her that I was vegan and that I did not consume flesh, dairy or egg products. She responded that soy milk was yucky, and she told me that she would never ever be able to go for a day without what she called normal milk, cow's milk. I responded, but I love soy milk. It doesn't harm the planet. It doesn't harm the rainforests. I choose to drink soy milk out of the bottle and then reuse and recycle that bottle. Why is it that so many people in the medical profession still remain surprised by the clear results of independent research that show that a vegan diet is vastly superior to a carnist one? Is it because the human mind operates like two halves of one whole, the left brain and the right? Or is it because humanity can only cling to its traditions and social pressures from industrialized institutions that tell us that cow milk is necessary for the strength of our bones? Since when was it normal and natural for a human being to drink from the udders of a cow the milk that was intended for its newborn? I stand before you today, bearing all the vulnerabilities of being a human. I am guilty of ignorance, sin, and intolerance. I am guilty of making mistakes, appearing stupid, or misunderstanding certain things. But one thing I stand proud of is the fact that I can feel remorseful for my misunderstandings, make amends for my errors, and express compassion at those things that cause me to feel pain and regret and longing and heartbreak. Whether I am a Christian or a Buddhist, whether I believe in God or Jesus or Buddha, I share a common viewpoint with all vegans that I can understand sin, error, and suffering where and when I see it. I see suffering in the faces of animals as much as grief in the faces of other people. I witness heartbreak when a baby calf is stolen from her mother, in the same way that a child is removed from the arms of an Aboriginal woman. I stand up for justice and women as I would stand up for an animal lying on its side. I long for justice and equality in the same way that so many decent and normal and unacknowledged people have tried their hearts out to fight for justice in a world that has for too long been dominated by oppression and unfairnesses. And therefore, I understand the human condition. Therefore, I can tell and understand the difference between right and wrong. I know when an animal feels pain and wants to be free from it. I know when an animal feels too uncomfortable to have sex of its own volition and must be forced into a rape rack in order to reproduce. I know when an animal is cute and cuddly and needs protection and deserves the space and freedom to be free and should be rescued. But today, even some of the most hard-grained farmers of animals are starting to see the errors in their ways. Those who have been put through the motions of committing animals to slavery and slaughter are starting to wake up to the protests of thousands and tens of thousands of people just like you who are bringing attention to the ridiculous traditions of animal farming. Do you really think it reasonable that animals should be killed at less than a quarter of their normal lifespan, so that their profiteers can earn big money, travel the world, impart their false ideologies and return to their large houses? My friends, more than 20 years ago it was established that smoking is bad for your health. In 2018 it has been established that meat is bad for your health. Let us not deny that meat is killing the majority of our population and making people sick and condoning the violent traditions of yesteryear. Why are most of us still living in the past? And so, dear friends, let us rise together to fight for the animals, just as we would have the animals fight for us if they could. For these animals have no protection, not even from God himself, but are indeed the manifestations of the gentle existence that we idolize for ourselves. For there is not one creature that does not deserve to be loved, not one creature that does not deserve a long and natural life, and not one creature that does not want the freedom to be happy and healthy. And so, in the name of all sentient life, ladies and gentlemen, and to all animals, regardless of species, cows, pigs, chickens, fish, we will rise together. Thank you.